starts at the 6th week of intrauterine life and ends by the 12th week of intrauterine life. The development of the palate is very much correlated with the development of the nasal cavity. So lots of the concept again you will recall in this development also. The development of the palate starts from the maxillary process. This is a vertical section of the embryo. In between the space lies that forms the stomatodium is there. Now, from the frontonasal process, as it get narrows and moving, its outgrowth starts moving towards the downward direction, it forms the nasal septum. And lateral to it, there is automatically the development of the cavities. We call them as the nasal cavities are there. Now, from the maxillary process, there is an outgrowth which moves towards the median direction and forms the processes. We name them as a palatal process. They are also called as a palatine shells. Now, palatine shells from the both sides fused with the nasal septum and gives origin to the complete palate. If you see in the next figure, that is D, there is a fusion of these two palatal processes are there along with the nasal septums are there. Now, if you observe its horizontal view, this is the maxillary process and outgrowth, that is the palatal process is there. Its outgrowth is towards the median direction is there. In the medial side from the above, there is a position of the nasal septum is there, which is moving towards the downward, and they are approaching each other medially along with the fusion with the median part of the frontonasal process, which is also called as a premaxilla. When these structures fused with the palatal process along with the nasal septum, they gives origin to the complete palate. Now, palate, if we look into that, it consists of the primitive palate and other is the secondary palate is there. Development of the primitive palate, or it is also called as a premaxilla, starts from the frontonasal process. Actually, the frontonasal process which contributes to the formation of the premaxilla is there. Secondary palate, which is formed from the palatal process of the maxillary processes, they further divisible into two, that is the hard palate and then is the soft palate. Anterior third, fourth part which get ossified by the intramembranous ossification. They forms the hard palate, and ossification which fails to occurs at the posterior most level, that forms the soft palate, and its posterior end which is also called as the uvula. Now, primitive palate or the premaxilla, it carries the incisor tooth. All incisors, 4 incisors, they confine to this place, and it also carries the incisive foramen. And where the foramen exists, we call them as incisive fossa is there. Now, the complete palate, if we look into that, there is a fusion of premaxilla with the palatal process, fusion of two palatal process, and fusion of palatal process with the nasal septum is there. So different fusions starts from the frontonasal process by the medial part of the palatal process, and with the portion of premaxilla, they gives origin to the complete part of the palate is there. So again, I am summarizing this complete part into that. Palatal process originated from the maxillary process. They approaches each other medially. Nasal septum from the frontonasal part, it moves from the upward to the downward direction. Both these structures, two palatal process, one nasal septum, when they fuse with each other, they forms the complete portion of the palate. And palate is further divisible into the primitive as well as the hard palate is there. Primitive palate, which carries the part from the frontonasal process, forms the premaxilla, which carries the incisor tooth, incisor fossa along with the incisive foramen. And secondary palate, which develops from the maxillary process or the palatal process of the maxilla, which is also called as a palatine shells, They forms the hard palate as well as the soft palate. Hard palate forms when the complete portion is developed by the intramembranous ossification, and the posterior most part of the palate ossification fails to occur. It remains as a soft, that is called as a soft palate, and its end narrow point, that is also called as a uvula. So this is the complete part of the development of the palate. Here you can again summarize into that development of the palate also leads to the development of the nasal cavities there. So here we finishes the development of the face, development of the nasolacrimal duct, development of the nasal cavities, development of the palate. Now we are left with the clinical correlation